Hi, I'm Susan Lewis from WRTI, and I'm here with Lawrence Brownlee. Hi, Larry.
Nice to be with you, Susan.
Well, it's exciting. You are celebrating the release of a new album called Amici e Rivali, Friends and Rivals with Michael Spyres.
Yes, I'm very excited about this new release.
Well, it's something that can be appreciated by both opera lovers and people who are very new to the genre. I've been listening to it. It's very beautiful. It's very fun.
hmm
So what gave you the idea to do an album like this? You've recorded a lot of Rossini. Why focus on this particular aspect?
Well, the idea for this album started a few years ago when I was doing a concert with Michael Spyres in the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. And so Michael and I had never sung together before, but we had a mutual respect for each other. And so we decided in programming this concert in Amsterdam, we thought that we would look at something that had tenor duets. Now, it's very easy to find a tenor soprano duet, a tenor baritone duet, a tenor mezzo soprano duet, but it's hard to find tenor duets. And so a lot of people who know me and know Michael Spyres know that we do specialize in Rossini. So we looked into the music of Rossini knowing that they have written tenor duets. And so we wanted to feature that in this concert in Amsterdam. And so doing that, we had a very fun time doing it. And the audience was so positive and really appreciative of what we had done. And we did an encore at the concert, and someone in the audience recorded it. They put it on the internet, YouTube, I think a day later, and the video went viral. It went absolutely viral. And so what happened after that, I said to Michael, I was thinking, I said, you know what? Maybe there's something here. There's a project there that we could do an album of all the duets and Rossini's, the trios of Rossini tenors. And then I wanted to do a check to see if anybody had ever done that before. Come to find, no one had ever compiled all of those duets and trios, most times including also a mezzo soprano in one album. And so thus was the idea kind of launched and born.
Wow. Well, so what was the piece that went viral?
The piece was called Avvieni nel tuo sangue from Rossini's Otello. And so I had done this duet before with another good friend of mine named Javier Camarena. We did this at the Richard Tucker Gala in New York City a few years ago, and that video also went viral. So thinking about that video and also the one with Michael Spyres, it seemed like the public was anxious to hear these duets, and so that's why we decided to record.
You say you don't often hear duets by tenors and trios by tenors. What was it about this period in history that made it so popular?
Well, the thing about Rossini is that he often wrote for voices that he knew. So there were two tenors in particular that he wrote for quite a bit. One was named Andrea Nozzari, the other one was Giovanni David. And so looking at the way many of these roles were written that they debuted, we can ascertain that my voice was probably similar to the voice of Giovanni David, and likewise, Michael's voice is probably similar to that of Andrea Nozzari, because the voices and the roles, rather, the roles seem to fit in our voices, and it seems to be a little bit easier for us. And so we decided to do some research, and we found out that there were many things that they had done together. And so those are the things that are included on this album. And so that's why in that period of time is because Rossini wrote specifically for these voices that he featured and knew very well. And so there was repertoire now for us to pick from to be able to sing together.
So when you have two tenors singing together or three, what kind of techniques does Rossini use to develop their interplay?
Well, the thing, Rossini is known for his melismatic singing and all of the fast notes and all of the trills and the coloratura, as we call it, or some people may call it the fioratura, which means the flowering, you know? Fiore is flower in Italian. And so the flowering of certain melodies. And so all the fast notes and tenors, a lot of people, one think tenors are not friends. And so Michael and I actually are very friendly, which is why it works so well. Well, many of my friends, we're all very friendly tenors, our small little group of people, that we get along well, but also our voices can get along well because even writing a duet, we are very much, for the most part, in the same range with close harmonization. So the close harmonization, in addition to having these fast notes that are put in the music, but also us being tenors needing to access the high notes. So we have high notes, we have close harmony and fast notes. And so this is something that creates fireworks sometimes. And so, especially in an album like this, we can add high notes too, which makes it even more exciting. So that's been part of the fun in recording this album as well.
The materials talk about dueling tenors. What do you mean by that?
Dueling tenors means that if I hold a high note, if you have the opportunity later to hold a high note, you'll probably hold a little bit longer. So it's kind of like one-upsmanship, or to see who can hold it the longest, or to see who can sing it the best. But it's all in good fun. So this is the idea of dueling tenors, because we usually have both opportunities to do some of the same things to show off our voices.
Does the range of a singer determine what kind of character he plays in an opera?
Not always. A lot of times, basses are the villains, and baritones can be the bad guy, or usually not the positive one. Tenors oftentimes are the love interest and the ones that are considered the good guy. Basses sometimes can be considered the father. Mezzo sopranos can be considered the mothers or the aunties or the fairy godmothers, and sopranos are considered the ingenue or the young damsel in distress or something like that. So it's not always that way. But the great thing about Rossini is that, especially when he wrote for two Rossini tenors, is usually that one of them is the bad person and the other one is the good person. So it's not necessarily the voice type that says who is the good or bad person, but in most cases, you can kind of ascertain by the voice type, I guess you can say.
Well, in the materials, you also talk about how both you and Michael are schooled in traditional bel canto style. What does that mean to people who aren't familiar with singers?
Traditional bel canto styles is kind of like the practices, the performance practices that you do in Rossini. And in bel canto, which means beautiful singing, it's about beautiful singing, but also expressivity. But there are certain rules that you have to kind of follow based upon the tradition, as I said before, the performance practices. And one of the things about this album, Amici and Rivali, is that we have a strong, strong American tenor, Rossini tenor tradition. And those are people like Chris Merritt and Bruce Ford and Rockwell Blake and Gregory Kunda and Stanford Olson and Paul Austin Kelly. All of these people sang Rossini all over the world. And so Michael and I, as we were coming up, we had role models to look to, people who sang in the 60s and 70s and 80s who were hugely successful in places like the Metropolitan Opera and La Scala in Berlin and Paris, all of these international houses that came from America, and they sang in these styles, and they sang with these cadenzas and these roulades, and this is what we kind of learned our tradition from. So this is what I mean by in the traditional Rossini style, people who did things that were acceptable in the music that Rossini wrote.
And is there an opportunity for improvisation?
There is, but it has to be stylistically correct. So even a lot of the ornaments that you see need to sound spontaneous, need to sound like they were thought up in the moment. And that is the beauty of Rossini, because it doesn't, even though you have all of these florid passages, they need to sound like they come from somewhere, like you're expounding on a word and it's happening in the moment. And so a true Rossini singer who sings in the style will make it sound like it's something that isn't planned, but something that's spontaneous.
So you have all these great techniques and this wonderful type of singing. When you put an album together like this, I understand that you were celebrating the way Rossini wrote his operas as well, in the pieces you chose and the order you chose to put them.
Yes, that's absolutely right. We chose all these pieces and we showed the breadth of what Rossini was writing. And we showed that there were so many different things and the mastery of the style of Rossini. And so that's what we wanted to bring to the forefront. A lot of times, especially in the United States and outside of the United States, they know about three operas that Rossini wrote. That's The Barber of Seville, that's Cinderella, and maybe The Italian Girl in Algiers. But Rossini wrote many operas. And so we are bringing pieces to the forefront that are not necessarily known by people who are real Rossini aficionados. They know everything, but what we're trying to do is bring all of his other music to light so people can really appreciate the true mastery of Rossini.
Can you give some examples from some of the tracks on the album of some of the things that were fun or particularly challenging?
Yes, there is a trio that we sang with the mezzo soprano named Tara Erat. It's from the opera called La Donna del Lago, which is The Lady of the Lake. And there is a place when you talked about dueling before, we have dueling high Cs because I sing one, then Michael sings one, then I sing another one, then he sings another one. And then the mezzo soprano, she gets to sing a high note too. And so all of us bing, 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 all over the place, high notes. And so we have that one. We also have a tenor trio, which again is even more rare than a tenor duet. We have a guy named Javier Anduaga, a young Spanish, fantastic young tenor. I mean, people say, hey, he sounds like a young Pavarotti. Really, really wonderful, wonderful singer who won Operalia, I think, last year. So this is a voice that people should look out for because he will be. He's already a star. But he and Michael and I, we do this fantastic trio from Armida, which is a role that I performed at the Met. And so with Renee Fleming. And this is one of these opportunities where we get to, one after another, get a chance to sing out high notes. So there's incredible duets. One from Ricciardo e Zoraida is another one that Michael and I get a chance to sing. And the great thing about it too, is when you said before about improvisation, we had a wonderful coach and pianist who wrote out even better cadenzas than the ones we knew ourselves or had heard. And so he gave us some even more creativity to be able to express in this album. So we're really excited about the launch of this album and hope people appreciate it.
It just sounds as if you're having so much fun doing it. So the whole concept of friends and rivals, does that refer to the characters in the opera or to the tenors themselves?
Well, it refers to the characters in the operas, but Michael and I are not rivals. If you want to call us friendly rivals because we duel it out on the CD or on the stage as we're having fun, okay. But many of the roles that Rossini wrote, some of the characters in the operas were friends, and some of the characters in the opera were rivals. For example, in Rossini's Otello and Rodrigo are not friends; they are rivals. But if you think of Lord Norfolk and Leicester in Ricciardo Zoraida, they are friends. Also, Iago and Rodrigo in Otello are friends. So you can have these relationships of both friendships and rivals in Rossini's music.
So what do you think was the most surprising thing for you in putting this together?
Well, it was exciting for us. There was a great enthusiasm from the conductor. There was a great enthusiasm from the orchestra, the sound engineers, even the record label. Michael and I had a good time. It was just a great feeling when we recorded this. And the fact that we were doing something that, to our knowledge, has never been done, that has been the fun in it. But also performing the music in the way we feel that it was intended to be performed. We recorded this in Verona, Italy. We felt like it was authentic because the entire orchestra were Italian. The language coach, he was Italian. The pianist and many of the other people, they were Italian. And Michael and I, being American, but we both speak Italian, we felt that there was a great deal of authenticity recording that music in the style in Italy with an entire Italian team. So that was the fun thing for us.
Do you have any particular hope about what listeners will take away from it?
I hope people will listen to this and really respect at a greater and deeper level the mastery of Rossini. When you look at his music and all the things that we appreciate today, Figaro, 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 yes, we know this, but we can understand that La Donna del Lago and Armida and Le Siège de Corinthe, which is the siege of Corinth. You know, we did this one in French, and there's a fantastic trio with tenor, and mezzo soprano that's not normally performed that way. It's usually two females and one male, but we did it this time with two males and one female, and this is the original way. So we brought something back in that had been performed in the past that's not often done. But I know that people will respect Rossini at an even higher level.
Well, it does shine a light on a particular period in opera history and a particular composer, and maybe will inspire people for the future because it sounds like it's it's wonderful to have all these duets and trios among tenors. So why not have more of them?
Absolutely. And again, I hope people will look back and really look at the music that was put out by Rockwell Blake and Chris Merritt and all of these other singers who did record them in individual recordings, but then be able to appreciate the tremendous legacy that we as American opera singers who specialize in Rossini that we have. And so this is kind of in tribute to all of them, but also really to celebrate the music of Rossini.
Well, it's a wonderful album and it's fun to listen to. The music is beautiful, and you really get the sense of opera as an athletic endeavor as well.
Yes, that's what it's about. Rossini wrote it to really show off what a voice can do, the voice's potential, all the bells and whistles, being able to sing fast and high and long notes, and to just show off all the great things that the voice is capable of. And so it really shows your strengths and not your weaknesses. And if you can sing Rossini, I think that really shines through in his music.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Larry Brownlee. Congratulations on the album.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much.